Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. Today we're diving into one of the biggest puzzles shaping our world, the Great Fertility Paradox. Here it is in a nutshell. For the first time in history, women around the globe are having fewer children than ever before. In many countries, the birth rate is so low it can't even sustain the current population. And yet, the total number of babies born each year is still incredibly high. And our global population continues to climb. How can both of these things be true? How can we have shrinking families but a growing world? This isn't just a quirky statistic. It's a demographic tug-of-war that dictates everything from our economy to our environment. Let's unravel this paradox. To understand where we are now, we have to look back at the 20th century. For most of human history, population growth was a slow crawl. It took until the early 1800s for humanity to reach 1 billion people. High birth rates were matched by tragically high death rates from disease, famine, and war. The Industrial Revolution started to change that. Better farming, sanitation, and medicine meant people, especially children, started living longer. But birth rates stayed high. This gap between births and deaths kicked off a steady period of growth. But the 20th century was something else entirely. It was a demographic explosion. In 1900, there were 1.6 billion of us. By the year 2000, there were over 6 billion. Think about that acceleration. It took 123 years to add our second billion people. But the jump from 5 to 6 billion took only 12 years. This explosion happened because the life-saving technologies from the developed world spread across Asia, Africa, and Latin America. Death rates plummeted and populations surged. By the late 1960s, the global population was growing by over 2% a year. This period of frantic growth did two critical things that set the stage for our paradox. First, it created an incredibly young global population, with a huge percentage of people being children and teenagers. Second, it kickstarted the very social changes that would eventually cause birth rates to fall. And that brings us to the other side of the paradox, the great decline in fertility. The same forces of modernization that let us live longer also changed the very idea of family. In 1965, the global average was about 5 children per woman. Today, it's below 2.5. This is a massive, near-universal shift. So why is this happening? There are 4 main drivers. First, and perhaps most importantly, is the transformative power of women's education. Study after study shows a powerful connection. The more educated a woman is, the fewer children she is likely to have. Education gives women knowledge about their health and contraception. It opens doors to careers outside the home, which raises the opportunity cost of having children. Educated women also tend to marry later, delay childbirth, and focus their resources on the health and education of a smaller number of children, investing in their quality over quantity. The second driver is the rise of women in the workforce. This is closely tied to education. As more women build careers, the challenges of raising a large family become more intense. The motherhood penalty is a real phenomenon, where having children can negatively impact a woman's earnings and career path. With childcare and domestic work still falling mostly on women in many societies, balancing a career and a large family becomes incredibly difficult. Many choose to delay having children, or have fewer of them. Third is the massive global shift from rural to urban living. In farming societies, children were often seen as an economic asset, extra hands to help on the farm. In a city, the opposite is true. Children become an economic liability. The costs of housing, education, and healthcare are sky high in urban areas. Cities also offer a huge range of other opportunities for personal development and leisure that compete with the demands of raising a family. Finally, we have the family planning revolution. The arrival of modern, effective contraception in the mid-20th century was a complete game-changer. It gave women and couples unprecedented control over when and if they had children. These programs empowered millions to make their own informed decisions, and they were a key factor in the rapid drop in fertility rates worldwide. Okay, so we've established that education, careers, city life, and contraception are leading women to have fewer children. This brings us back to the central question of the paradox. If that's true, why is the world's population still growing by so much? The answer is a powerful demographic force called population momentum. Population momentum is the tendency for a population to keep growing even after fertility rates fall to, or even below, the replacement level of 2.1 children per woman. It happens because of the population's age structure. All those decades of high fertility in the 20th century created an enormous generation of young people. So even if this huge group of young adults has, on average, only 2 children per couple, the sheer number of people having those children is so vast that the total number of births remains massive. Think of it like a speeding train. Even after the driver hits the brakes, the train's momentum will carry it forward for a long distance. Our global population is that train. The brakes, lower fertility rates, have been applied, but the momentum from our youthful past ensures we'll continue to grow for decades to come. Let's look at some real-world examples to see this in action. Take India. In 2023, India officially became the most populous country in the world, surpassing China. But here's the paradox in its purest form. India's fertility rate has already fallen to 2.0, which is below the replacement level. So how is its population still growing? Population momentum. Decades of higher fertility created a massive youth population, and as they enter their childbearing years, the population continues to expand. Now look at Nigeria, Africa's most populous nation. Its fertility rate is still high, at over 5 children per woman, but it's declining. However, over 40% of Nigeria's population is under the age of 15. This combination of a high birth rate and an incredibly young age structure means Nigeria's population is set to explode in the coming decades, driven by this immense momentum. The Philippines is another case. Its fertility rate has dropped to around 1.9 children per woman, again, below replacement level. But, like India, its young population structure means it will continue to add millions of people for years to come. We see the same story in countries like Ethiopia and Egypt. They've made huge progress in reducing birth rates, but their populations continue to grow rapidly because of the demographic echo of their past. This paradox has huge consequences that pull the world in 2 different directions. For developing countries with lots of young people, this can create a demographic dividend. This is a window of opportunity where the working-age population is large compared to the number of dependents, young children, and the elderly. With fewer people to support, a country can invest more in education, infrastructure, and job creation, leading to rapid economic growth. But this dividend is not guaranteed. If a country fails to educate its youth and create jobs, that youth bulge can turn into a demographic disaster, leading to high unemployment, poverty, and social unrest. At the other end of the spectrum, many developed countries are facing the complete opposite problem, an aging and shrinking population. Decades of very low below replacement fertility have created a society with fewer young people and a growing number of elderly citizens. This brings its own set of challenges: a shrinking workforce to power the economy, rising healthcare costs for the elderly, and immense strain on pension and social security systems. Countries like Japan and many in Europe are already deep into this reality, and others, including China, are right on the verge of this dramatic shift. So how do we navigate this future? The Great Fertility Paradox isn't a problem to be solved, but a reality to be managed. There is no one-size-fits-all approach, but some principles are key. First, we must continue to empower women and girls. Investing in female education and ensuring access to reproductive health care are not just human rights. They are the most effective tools for managing population dynamics and fostering sustainable development. Second, we must invest in human capital. For youthful nations, this means providing quality education and healthcare to turn that youth bulge into a demographic dividend. For aging nations, it means promoting lifelong learning and retraining to keep the workforce productive. And third, we must build sustainable economies that create opportunities for everyone, young and old, while protecting our planet. The Great Fertility Paradox is a story of human progress, but also of immense challenges. It shows a world changing in profound and contradictory ways. By understanding these powerful demographic forces, we can better prepare for the future and work to build a world where every single person and our planet can thrive.